Now, the facts have shown that people with a strong, positive personal brand are more likely to get hired. They are promoted much quicker, and therefore they are ultimately more successful than people who have a weak personal brand. Hey guys, welcome back and thank you so much for joining in for the second episode of my new YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen before, if you haven't watched my previous video, which I'm linking down below, please go and check it out. This is your one-stop shop if you're a career woman and you want to find out about all things when it comes to life, wellness and career and how to thrive. So if you haven't watched my previous video, I'd encourage you to take a look if you want to just understand, like who I am, who is this new chick, what is she trying to achieve. I've explained that all in my introduction video, which I'd encourage you to take a look at. In the meantime, as I promised in my previous video, what I would like to chat to you guys about today is about personal branding. So we've all heard this word, it's kind of like this new buzz term, and no one really understands what it is and also why this thing is important. So what I'd like to achieve today is to explain exactly what personal branding is. Why is it so important? And once we know why, what it is, why it's important, I've got a few tips for you on how you can go about trying to establish what your personal brand is and use that to your benefit. So what exactly is personal branding? And I think if I had to describe it in its simplest form, it is effectively your reputation. So it's more than just your CV, which lays out like what skills you've gained and what skills you've developed and what experience you've gained. But on top of that, it is basically also the person that is behind the CV and how all of that comes together. So if you had to think about, if you asked someone to describe you in one sentence or in a couple of words, what are the words that, like the first words that are going to come to mind? And that it basically speaks to what your personal brand is, because that's like when people think of you, that's what they think. If you had to imagine, if you were walking down the corridor and someone kind of like looked at you for the first time or looked at you after meeting you a couple of times, what are those words that are on the back of your shirt that basically describe you? So you always want to be thinking about, if I think about what my personal brand is, what are the words that are on the back of my shirt? Like, you need to know what those words are, especially if those words are negative ones, so that you can be super careful about making sure that you don't have negative words on the back of your shirt. You don't want the top 3 like adjectives that people use to describe you being negative words. It's a weird one because I think we've always been reared or encouraged to not think about what other people think of you and to kind of let go of those thoughts of obsessing, like what does everyone else think, and just like do what you want kind of a thing, and just be focused on how you view yourself, because that is the most important opinion. And for sure, it is the most important opinion. Like what you say about yourself, like that conversation that you have in your head is the most important conversation that you can have with anyone. But that said, if you're looking to be successful, then you need to be aware of what your personal brand is, because everyone has a personal brand. That's just the thing. You don't decide whether you want to have one or not and therefore like now start working on it. You have a personal brand, so you might as well know what it is so that you can make sure that you're leveraging that personal brand to your best advantage. Key distinction to make is that it's not about what you think about yourself. It's not how you see yourself. It's actually about how others perceive you. And that is what defines what your personal brand is. So if we think about traditional branding in the form of companies, so usually when we think of brands, there's a couple of popular brands that come to mind, but every single company has a brand whether they've invested the time in trying to like fully develop that and trying to create a brand that really resonates with customers. Whether they've done that or not, every single company has a brand. And you know, all the data shows that the brands that companies build today have a very big impact on whether consumers decide whether to purchase that brand's products or not. And it's all about whether they can resonate with that brand or not. So therefore, those brands are thinking about, you know, what are the top 3 words or adjectives that when people think of my brand, this is what I would want them to say. And therefore, this is the kind of person that I would be looking to attract, because those adjectives would resonate with who they are and therefore they would purchase my products. Let's take GoPro, for example. If you look at the GoPro logo, what are the first couple of adjectives that come to mind? So for me, if I see GoPro, I think adventurous, I think fun-loving, I think adrenaline, and that is for sure the brand that they have looked to build, and therefore the people that are purchasing GoPro devices are people who are adventurous and fun-loving. Now, if we bring that back to personal branding, what that is effectively the practice of building and marketing your story and leveraging that story to progress or to fast-track your career, all informed by how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you dress, how do you react in certain situations, how do you react to challenges, are you resilient, do you have a growth mindset? All these things form what your personal brand is. So in a nutshell, that is what personal branding is. So now that we know what personal branding is, let's take a look at just exactly why it is so important. And I think if I can just summarize it, if you want to be impactful, if you want to be influential, and if you want to be successful, you absolutely need to have a clear voice. People need to have such a crisp image of who you are and not feel confused by your persona versus who they think you might actually be. So the absolute foundation of building a really great and strong personal brand is being authentic. The facts have shown that people with a strong, positive personal brand are more likely to get hired. They are promoted much quicker, and therefore they are ultimately more successful than people who have a weak personal brand. Having a strong personal brand can be really helpful for when you're applying for a new job. It can be great for, you know, if you're applying for a promotion or if you are up for promotion, that, you know, everyone is super clear on, yes, you absolutely need to be the one that is hired. You absolutely need to be the one that they're going to promote. It's really helpful for if you are starting your own business as well, to try and build that connection between who you are, between your persona and your business. Because at the end of the day, as much as when we think about consumer products and that we said people purchase products that they resonate with when it comes to in terms of brands, it's not just about what that product can do or how it looks. It's also about whether they resonate with the story that is behind that brand. In the same way that people are going to choose whether they want to do business with you and support your business if they resonate with who you are, if they resonate with your brand and what you stand for, because that is ultimately one and the same as the brand and story that your company stands for at the end of the day. Now, the next part is we've understood what personal branding is. We've understood that every single person has a personal brand, whether they like it, whether they know it or not. We've also then understood just why understanding what your personal brand is so important, and why working on your personal brand is so important for career progression, for getting the jobs that you want, for building successful companies, and just long-term career growth and progression. It's absolutely key. So now what we want to understand is, okay, now that we know all of these things, how do we go about actually establishing what our personal brand is? What is very distinct about this is that it's not about how we perceive ourselves. It's really about how other people perceive us. And so that gives us our first clue that a really great exercise that I'd encourage everyone to do is to reach out to a couple of your friends, your family, but definitely you want to be reaching out to a couple of your colleagues at least. And what you want to do as an exercise is ask them to send you just 3 words on, if they think about you, how would they describe you? What are the top 3 words that come to mind? Whether those are negative or whether those are positive, but the key is you want them to be honest so that you can get that, real intel. I did this at the beginning of lockdown actually. I did this as an exercise because I thought that being in lockdown was a great opportunity for me to do some introspection. So what I did is I reached out to a couple of my friends and family as well as my colleagues, and I asked them for these words, and then I created a word cloud, which I'm bringing up on the screen right now for you to see. What a word cloud is that it takes all of the single words that appear the most or the highest number of times will be bigger, and the words that were not as frequent would be smaller. So if you look at what my word cloud is, there were a couple of words that came out here which I actually found quite surprising, to be honest. And this is where it's like really interesting, because one of these, for example, which is confident, to be honest, I think in terms of how I perceive myself, I don't always perceive myself as confident, or at least not as confident as I think I should be. And so it's very interesting to see that a lot of people on the outside do perceive me as confident, even though I don't always feel like I'm confident. I created this word cloud using Word It Out. So all you need to do is just get those adjectives, you list it in like a Microsoft Word document or an Excel document, you upload it, and it will create this awesome word cloud for you. And it just gives you a really great idea, just, a snapshot of this is how people think of you. Once you've done the exercise, I think there's 2 things that you'd want to do next. First thing is that if you have a high level of self-awareness, and this is a good test for that, if you have a high level of self-awareness, then most of the words that come up, from your word cloud should not actually come as a surprise. The second thing that you want to do is you want to look at these words word for word, especially the big ones that come out most frequently. And you want to try and understand, for both the positive words as well as the negative words, why is it that people have that opinion of you? So again, it's not about changing who you are, but I think what you want to do is look at all of the adjectives, look at how your personal brand, what your personal brand currently says, and ask yourself whether you are happy with all the words that are coming out. If there are words that you are not happy about, you want to try and unpack those and understand what are the behaviors that are driving those perceptions. And that's how you know how to then become more mindful about what to focus on. And you cannot focus on everything at once, so I would focus on one thing at a time. Similarly, with the positive aspects, you want to understand, if you are not entirely clear, you want to understand what is it that you're doing, what are the behaviors that you are portraying that are resulting in that positive view of you. And those are the things that you want to keep on doing and keep on building on. So that is the more personal aspect of things. Of course, within your personal brand, the other element, apart from your behavior and how you conduct yourself, is your resume and the kind of experience and skills that you have, which we won't have time to cover in this video. But if you would like, I am really happy to do a video on that for you. So if you're interested, then please comment down below, and I'll be happy to create a video for you guys on that. So that's it from me today on personal branding, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you really enjoyed this, if you found this was useful and insightful, then please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, then please also subscribe to my channel, where you'll be sure to be getting lots more of this kind of, really useful information, tactful guidance on how you can continue to thrive and win in career, life, and wellness. I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I'll be sure to catch you soon. Bye!